question's off limits only because that's all things that have been rumored or whatever post my relationship. So I can't speak to it. But you're right about that. I don't have anything. Not even a cold. I am a little hoarse.
Do all y'all know what's going on with you? Do you tell him you burning, or do you lie to him like you did me? Or is you lying to how you did me? Or is you lying? Or did you lie to me? Did you lie? Did you tell him the truth? Or did you tell him the truth? When you go be gangster? Hey. And when you go be gangster? When you go gang, that's what you did. You lied to me for 6 months, and then you told me you had that shit.
In 100, but I was really, I didn't feel too bad about it because my ex-chick Dominant Body had like 2,000 or whatever, but so it was like when I was dealing with my chick, she couldn't really be like, oh, your body counts too much, because her body count like 2,000. My body count like 3,000, so it's like, damn, like I didn't feel too bad about it, honestly.
It's devastating to have to come on here and share that whenever I was 19 years old, Gucci third leg burned me with HSV2. And he told me that he was going to send me his test results, and he never did. And it saddens me to hear that he's done this to so many girls, and there's girls with so many similar stories to me, and they're so young as well. He is preying on the young, he is preying on the new, and I'm so sorry for not saying this 7 months ago. I was scared, and I was making so much money. I can't keep beating around the bush because you guys think I'm lying. And he can't ruin anybody else's life. I didn't know what he was known for. I didn't know who he was. I didn't do my research. And it is my
part. That's a touchy situation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a certain feeling, and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Sexyy, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Sexyy and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation.
You thought the drama around Sexyy Red was already out of control, but now it's spiraling into something way bigger than anyone expected, because suddenly her name isn't just tied to one messy accusation. It's being linked to multiple alleged HSV cases, whispered connections, and now even unexpected celebrities being dragged into the conversation. With the internet doing what it does best, connecting dots that may or may not even exist, turning one viral claim into a full-blown scandalware. Every new post adds fuel to a fire nobody can seem to put out, and the wildest part is how fast this escalated from gossip to a full-on theory web involving people you would never think to place in the same sentence, let alone the same situation. But to understand how things got this chaotic, you have to rewind to where it all allegedly began, because this didn't just appear out of nowhere. This whole situation traces back to when her baby daddy went public and completely flipped the narrative, putting her on blast with claims that she passed something to him and, more importantly, that she already knew and didn't say anything, which instantly turned a private situation into public controversy. And it didn't stop there, because things escalated even further when audio from a supposed private call started circulating, with him pressing her about whether she had been honest with other partners or if she had been hiding the same truth across the board. And just like that, the internet had what it needed: a messy origin story, alleged receipts, and enough uncertainty to keep people debating. But then the story took a sharp turn when new names started entering the chat, because this is where things really started to snowball, as a content creator known as Gucci Third Leg got pulled into the narrative, bringing with him a reputation that only made things messy, especially after his own viral statements about an extremely high body count resurfaced, which had people side-eyeing everything even harder. And then came the moment that pushed things into overdrive: a TikTok confession from an influencer who emotionally claimed she had been infected after dealing with him, alleging not just her own experience, but suggesting there were multiple young women with similar stories. And suddenly, this wasn't just isolated drama anymore. It felt like a pattern, and right when people thought it couldn't get more intense, a supposed list started circulating online, allegedly naming individuals connected to him after he knew about his condition. And sitting right there in the middle of it was Sexyy Red's name, which sent the internet into full detective mode because now people weren't just reacting, they were investigating, digging through timelines, interactions, collaborations, and appearances, trying to piece together how all these individuals could be connected. And that's exactly how someone like Usher ended up getting dragged into the conversation. Not because of any confirmed link, but because social media thrives on proximity logic, where being 1 degree away from someone is enough to build a narrative, especially in an industry where overlapping circles, private parties, collaborations, and so-called sneaky links blur the lines between coincidence and connection. And once his name entered the chat, everything escalated again because, unlike the others, Usher comes with a history that people were quick to bring back into the spotlight, including past lawsuits, settlements, and allegations from multiple individuals who claimed they were put at risk without being informed, stories that had already made headlines years ago, suddenly resurfacing like they never left, adding weight to the speculation and making the entire situation feel less like random gossip and more like something layered, complex, and unresolved, especially when you look at how those legal battles played out over time, creating a paper trail that people online are now reanalyzing with fresh eyes. But just when it feels like everything is lining up too perfectly, that's when the reality check hits, because if you actually slow down and look at the timelines, things start to fall apart just as quickly as they came together. Since Usher's most publicized controversies peaked years ago, long before Sexyy Red was even in the industry, back when she was still far removed from the level of fame and access she has now, placing them in completely different eras of celebrity life, which raises the biggest question of all. Are people uncovering something real? Or are they forcing connections simply because the narrative is too tempting to ignore? Because as much as the internet loves a good scandal, there's still no direct evidence linking these two worlds together, leaving the story hanging in that perfect space between believable and baseless, where speculation thrives and the truth becomes harder to separate from the noise. And just when you think this story couldn't get any messier, here comes the wild card nobody expected to re-enter the conversation like this. Tameka Foster, because now the drama isn't just living in rumor threads and TikTok breakdowns. It's starting to feel personal, layered, and a little too close to home, especially when you remember that her history with Usher was already filled with very public highs and lows. A marriage that played out in the spotlight, a divorce that came with tension, and years of speculation that never fully disappeared. So seeing her name suddenly pop back up in the middle of this chaos has people immediately paying attention. And what's making it even more intense is the contrast between what she has publicly said versus what the internet is claiming she might be saying behind the scenes. Because on one hand, she has made it very clear in the past that she wants no part in her ex-husband's controversies, shutting things down with statements that basically translate to "not my circus, not my clowns," emphasizing that she's moved on and that her life, her health, and her peace are intact. But on the other hand, social media is now running with a completely different narrative, suggesting that her recent frustrations, unrelated legal issues, and emotional posts might actually be indirect responses to being dragged back into this conversation, with whispers that she's allegedly been less than kind when speaking about Usher privately, even going as far as to question his past and his behavior. And whether any of that is true or just another case of the internet putting words in someone's mouth is exactly what's keeping people hooked, because it adds that human element to the story, that emotional undercurrent that turns gossip into something that feels real, messy, and unresolved. And suddenly this isn't just about who said what or who may have been connected to who. It's about history, lingering tension, and the idea that some stories in Hollywood never really end. They just go quiet until the right moment brings them back to life, which leads into the bigger picture that people are starting to zoom out and look at. Because at some point you have to ask yourself how all these names keep ending up in the same conversation. And the answer might be simpler than people think, because in the entertainment industry, especially at the level these celebrities operate, It really does function like a 1 degree of separation ecosystem where collaborations, parties, mutual friends, and overlapping circles create an environment where everyone is, at most, a few connections away from everyone else. And in that kind of space, it doesn't take much for rumors to spread, evolve, and attach themselves to bigger names, especially when reputations are already complicated or controversial. And that's where Sexyy Red becomes such a central figure in all of this, because her public persona has always leaned into being unapologetic, unfiltered, and a little bit chaotic in a way that fans find entertaining, but critics find questionable. And when you build a brand around being raw and unpredictable, it creates the perfect environment for speculation to thrive, because people start to assume that anything is possible, even when there's no concrete proof, and every new interaction, every collaboration, every appearance with another artist becomes potential evidence in the eyes of the internet, which is exactly how stories like this grow legs and start running faster than the facts can keep up. And now we're at that point where the narrative has gotten so big that it almost doesn't matter what's true and what isn't, because the conversation itself has taken on a life of its own, pulling in past relationships, resurfacing old allegations, and blending timelines in a way that makes everything feel connected, whether it actually is or not. Which brings us to the biggest question hanging over all of this. Are people genuinely uncovering something that's been hidden in plain sight this whole time? Or is this just another case of the internet doing what it does best, building a story out of coincidences, assumptions, and a few well-placed rumors? Because when you strip everything back, there's still no clear, direct link tying all these pieces together. But at the same time, the way everything overlaps just enough to feel believable is what keeps the speculation alive. And if there's one thing we've learned about situations like this, it's that they don't just disappear overnight. They evolve, they escalate. And sometimes they take unexpected turns when new voices or new receipts enter the chat. So the real question now is not just what actually happened, but what happens next, because if this is only the surface, then there's always the possibility that something bigger could still come out. Or maybe this is as far as it goes, and the rest is just noise. But either way, people are watching, people are talking, and the story is far from over. So you tell me, do you think there's any real connection here? Or are we witnessing another internet spiral that's gotten completely out of hand? You thought the drama around Sexyy Red was messy before? Well, buckle up, because now the rumors aren't just staying in rap circles. They're dragging in Usher, old lawsuits, viral accusations, and even his ex-wife, all into one spiraling story that the internet cannot stop connecting. What started as one explosive claim has now turned into a full-blown chain reaction of allegations, receipts, and she said moments. And somehow, every road seems to lead back to the same question. How deep does this situation actually go?